Drive to Survive Season 7. I'm here for it. It looks epic. I don't care what purists want to say anymore. Inject it into my veins. We are T-minus 6 days away from a cheeky Netflix Drive to Survive Season 7 drop. And we have a trailer. In that trailer, there are a gazillion talking points. Charles Leclerc talking about we are the Kardashians of F1. Toto Wolff saying how he really feels about Sir Lewis. Horner saying how he really feels about one Zak Brown. It is chaos, chat, and we're going to talk about it. Firstly, let's talk about the headline that is Drive to Survive. Listen, purists can say all they want to about how Drive to Survive is the scourge of the Formula One earth, but a rising tide in the simplest of terms floats all boats now. This is about getting growth markets to continue growing. This is about getting eyes on Formula One who have never watched it. This, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, is about attention dollars. Is it not, Aaron? Is it not, Turtle? Because again, look, 2025 is the TikTok generation, Gen Z. They will use any excuse not to watch the Formula that wants. And we don't want that. I don't want that. You don't want that. I remember back in the day at school, nobody talked about Michael Schumacher. Nobody was interested in how Jacques Villeneuve was going to do and whether he was going to be Gilles Villeneuve reincarnated. Nobody even cared. And that makes me sad. Whatever we need to do between now and the panacea, get F1 to the zenith of its popularity. I am in for it, fully bought in. Lest we forget, by the way, that Liberty Media have shareholders. And it is the CEOs, the C-suite execs, it's their responsibility to continue adding shareholder value. It's their obligation, their duty. And something like Netflix and Drive to Survive weaponizes content that's already in the database. You don't even need to do anything else. Let's talk to Charles Leclerc in the first instance, saying that we are the Kardashians of F1. Yeah, cool, I get it. Reality TV isn't for everybody. But how do you like that gazillion-dollar contract, Charles Leclerc? Do you know what I mean? Unless you have paying punters willing to turn up and pay $5,000 for paddock passes, you can't get that money. Drive to Survive wraps up very nice and neatly into that automotive pugilism equation. Lest we forget, what are you talking about, Charles Leclerc? Visual, you're an absolute legend. Go on then. And by the way, Toto, the boy who cried wolf, reacts to hearing for the first time that Lewis Hamilton won't be a Mercedes driver. He says as follows, and I quote, "After 12 years together, Lewis tells me that he's going to Ferrari. WTF? What's going on here? That was a surprise. I didn't even hear it from him. I heard it from Frederick Vasseur, who's a good friend. And when I was contacting him, he was giving me the radio silent stream. Listen, Drive to Survive Season 7 can't come soon enough for us to unpick at these narrative lines, these threads. Flavio Briatore, another one. Jack Doohan, we know that he goes into 2025. Pressure setting, suffocated. Again, Franco Colapinto breathing down his neck. You can argue with your purist cap on that this isn't good. If indeed you're going to throw a young, hungry lion like Jack Doohan after a gazillion years of waiting to fulfill his dreams into that Alpine seat, then you need to give him grace, right? Have patience with him. Give him a proper opportunity. They are not. Flavio Briatore does not give a fudge. We know that if past his prologue, he will sacrifice Jack Doohan in an instant at the altar of Ron Franco Colapinto. That's why you signed Franco Colapinto to a lengthy reserve driver contract. I would argue that Jack Doohan won't be there past race 6 this season. Franco Colapinto comes with money. He comes with cachet. He comes with marketing appeal. He looks like Ayrton Senna. How do you not put him in? And Flavio Briatore will find a way, even if Jack Doohan is outperforming expectations. In the Drive to Survive trailer, Flavio Briatore looks Jack Doohan in his face and he says, "I control your every millimeter." How do you contend with that, Jack? How do you expect to get the best out of this dude if you're suffocating before he's even turned a wheel in anger? I think it's a poison chalice of a seat. I think Franco Colapinto will be in there 4th and then we get to the juicy bit. Christian Horner. Look, I'm telling you, this is ramification settings. Christian Horner in the trailer. It is all about him. Why? Well, because 2024 was all about him. Misconduct gate, allegation gate, PA gate, whatever you want to call it, and in Drive to Survive, of course they're going to talk about it. Of course they are, because it's threads and it's personality and it's stakes and it's salacious plot lines. That's what sells in 2025. Like it or loathe it. In there, you hear Christian Horner, the trailer. You hear Christian Horner saying, I never thought I'd have a challenge like this in my career. Listen, he's talking to it. That's his truth. Why? Because his career was being undermined. He was within a hair's breadth of losing his job and everything that he's worked for. Imagine Red Bull sans Christian Horner. Who's he going to have as team principal? Jonathan Wheatley. It would be different, right? F1 would be different. That would be a seminal event. He continues, head in hands. Listen, it's all about competition. This thing is ruthless, says Ginger Spice, Christian Horner's missus. He says, however, Christian Horner cutting to another image of him, that some people rise to it, however, some people don't. Christian Horner, you know what, love or loathe him, he has this way of encapsulating exactly what Formula One is about. Either you take the challenge and rise to it, or you don't. Cut to Gunther Steiner, who says, you didn't even ask me about how I felt about being sacked. I didn't give a fudge, says Gunther Steiner. I mean, blockbuster if ever you've seen it. And then Christian Horner, per the headline, he says, you know what, Zak Brown is a Prick. Don't like him, never have, never will. Cut to Zak Brown on the phone now. Let's see whether we can break him. I'm telling you, Daniel, visual. It's techie than techie things. This is all about rivalry and enemies. This is about beef with a view to winning some silverware and F1 championships of the drivers and or constructors variety. Parlay that beef that we're going to see in plena color on March the 7th in to 2025, right? The season's going to get chaotic. How? Well, we know a couple of different things. Depending on who you're talking to, normalizing for GPS data, fuel loads, etc. A gazillion people are now saying that McLaren have the whip hand. The odds, they've changed materially. Previously, Max Verstappen was co-favourite, almost 26.6% recurring. That was his chance of winning the championship. Now, however, they've reduced that. The odds makers, experts are saying that he has a 23% only chance of winning. In stark contrast, Lando Norris was 28.5% before testing. Now, however, 30.7%. Round up, right? 31%. Is that what we're doing here? These two, in that vein, are going to fight. Christian Horner and Zak Brown I'm talking about. Zak Brown has done a madness. Let's be honest, he was the commercial mind, not necessarily the vehicular or aerodynamic genius, but he's managed somehow to mobilise the papaya colour team, and that has to mean something, especially going into 2025. Yes, it's flexing on the front and on the back, but he's got a sound driver pairing, hasn't he, some may say, in Lando and Oscar, to fight against the bulls that are red in Liam and Maximilian Verstappen. He said, I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. And it's come at the bloody perfect time. I think the timing of this, digging up old Christian Horner bones, might impact Red Bull going into Australia, especially if as so many people are saying, Ted Kravitz, other experts, the race, that Red Bull potentially don't have the whip hand, and now the bloody odds makers, that they don't have the fastest car. Some are saying, Ted Kravitz of Sky Sports F1, that you can throw a dust sheet, aka it's very close between Ferrari, Red Bull, so too Mercedes. That in the fight for second place, it's between those two. The Red Bull don't even stand a chance by dint of a temperamental, no mercurial car. You saw Liam Lawson in testing struggling, unsettling in the car over curbs. You saw Max Verstappen struggling, a cheeky spin out oversteer moment in the final session of the day. Ferrari too had their issues, their problems. Mercedes not so much. Again, If you win testing by doing the most laps, then Mercedes won the day, didn't they? It's going to be a war zone on track, Gio. Abso-flipping-lutely. It's going to be chaotic. Umar says, don't forget to fast that subscribe, thumbs up, etc. Oscar, it's OJ now. I think I've christened him right. Umar. That moniker's gonna stick. Oh, for humanity. Something else I wanted to talk about very quickly. Going into 2025. Let me read out some of your comments. I'm here for the OJ. McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull. That's the order. I've done there. You're not the first person that I'm hearing say that. Can you imagine, therefore? Go on then, let's play hypothetical games. Play silly games, get silly prizes for a second. Imagine a world where on March the 7th, Netflix's Drive to Survive comes out, and there will be at least one episode that focuses on the old bones, the dead bodies that are Christian Horner and misconduct PA Gate. Imagine for a second there is at least one episode that talks about that. The tumult, the rancor, the discontent that it caused, the lap time that it lost for the bulls that are red. Imagine that on March the 7th, there is an episode, one or more, that speaks exclusively to the Christian Horner chaos. 7 days away from the first Grand Prix of the season at Australia. And, by the way, the rumours of the 1 billion contract for Maximilian Verstappen endure. And then RB21 isn't the car that Red Bull hoped it would be. That Pierre Vacher isn't Adrian Newey. The aerodynamic department at the Bulls that are red are nothing without Adrian Newey. Imagine that they haven't fixed for the understeer, that they no longer have the double DRS that made their 2023 model such an absolute beast. Imagine that Max Verstappen doesn't therefore have the wheels requisite to challenge Lando Norris and the papaya colour team for a championship. Imagine therefore a circumstance where Max Verstappen has 1 foot out of the door, only then exacerbated by the memories of Christmas past and Christian Horner allegation gate. And in that circumstance, of course, we're talking about beef between Jos Verstappen and Christian Horner, father of Max and team principal of Max. We can't both want the same thing and be friends. I think Max Verstappen going forward, of course, he can forgive Christian Horner, but will he be able to forget? Because I would argue in a battle, a close one in 2025 with Lando, with a modern day Journalese, with a Sir Lewis Hamilton too, Oscar Jack potentially Liam Lawson as well, and King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk. I would argue as my principal supposition that there is lap time in there. Max Verstappen is a brilliant driver. We've seen him over the past 24 months make routine out of impossible feats. Brazil 2024 as your most recent case in point. He shouldn't be able to do that. But I would argue that the Dutchman, soon to be 5-time champion, some say, that his cup is almost already full. And Drive to Survive dropping on March the 7th isn't going to help neither his case nor the Bulls that are red, particularly if so many F1 aficionados are saying, as at the 1st of the 3rd, 2025, that Red Bull now have the 4th quickest car on the grid. Not the 1st, the 4th. As at the 1st of the 3rd, 2025, as aforementioned, Lando Norris has the whip hand. The odds makers make him the favourite. 31% of the time he wins. Only 23% they say Maximilian Verstappen, some say soon to be 5-time champion, will win the World Drivers' Championship. Max, Christian, Pierre Vacher, Enrico Balbo, Helmut Marko. Gents, your move.